Well, good evening. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to kind of wait here for a couple moments to give folks opportunity to arrive. The thousands who hang on my every word. So we'll give it we'll give it a little time here, and then we'll go ahead and start addressing our question for the night. So the live videos, it's a select group that shows up for that, but more tend to watch it afterwards. When I say more, I mean like 7 other people. But hopefully this ends up becoming a blessing to somebody. Ray, how you doing? Hey. What's going on, everybody? Yeah, I can do it if Ray's here and Chance, then how could I not do it? I was just commenting on how there's a small group that it seems like whenever I go live, they show up. You guys are some of those, but the majority tend to just kind of watch it later, which I fully get. But I really do appreciate you guys being here and hanging out with me for a little bit. So the chat is open, guys. Any questions, anything you guys want to talk about, let me know. How am I doing? I'm doing really good, Ray. I'm actually at this time, I'm in Sacramento, California. I'm here for a week of work. And so it's right now, it's 5:30 here, but I know it's really 8:30 back home. So I'm trying to kind of force myself to stay up a little bit. I'm actually torn. I'm going back on Friday. So do I try to get myself on Sacramento time, or do I try to stick to Cleveland time? And I'm torn. But anyway, I had started like ironing some clothes for tomorrow, and I was kind of watching the Cavs game out of the corner of my eye, and I finally turned that off. And I was about to start just doing some reading because I have a lot of quiet time here now. And then I saw a message that somebody sent. So I thought, you know what? Let me go ahead and just go online. Hopefully we can get up the hill to Tahoe for a day off. Yeah, I looked at it today. From here, it's about a 2.5-hour drive. And the thing is, I've wanted to see Tahoe. I have always wanted to see Tahoe. You're going to love my reason, because I love The Godfather. And so, The Godfather 2, the opening scene there is, I believe, at Lake Tahoe. So I've always wanted to see that. Yeah, but I don't think I'm going to have the time to get there this time. But we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to answer the question from Anne Fran. That was her name, Anne Fran. I'm going to answer her question, and but I'm also going to go ahead and take a moment to kind of bring you up to date on something I'm reading, a couple things that I'm reading, and maybe be of some interest to you. So as I've talked on the channel before, I left Adventism 18 years ago. And, Adventists have a lot of really, shall I say, unique views about the Bible and unique interpretations. And one of those big ones is basically their interpretation of like Daniel and Revelation and eschatology, writings about the end of time and things like that. And so up until 18 years ago, that was all I've ever known. And when I left Adventism, I I think it's fair to say I avoided anything prophecy related, Daniel, Revelation, even like Isaiah and Jeremiah. I didn't really delve into those because you really have to do the work to try to interpret things properly. And I didn't know that I had the time to do it. I didn't know that I had the energy to push off all the the baked in interpretations that I had with me. And so I frankly just avoided it. But it was about a year ago that I had my interview with Miles at Answering Adventism, and he not, I wouldn't say challenged me, but he commended me, I guess is how I'd word it, to look into Revelation. And so I did. And one of the first books I read on Revelation was, I believe his name is Richard D. Phillips. He's the pastor of like First Presbyterian in Greenville, South Carolina. And it was a beautiful, amazing read. And it was very different from Adventism, and I found the arguments in it very understandable and very logical. So I really, really appreciated that. Now, I've talked in the past about that I attend Parkside Church with Alistair Begg, and therefore I was very interested to hear if he had any recommendations. Now, I should say that the book Revelation by Richard D. Phillips was from the Parkside bookstore. And so I would presume that whatever theology or theological bent you would find in that bookstore is in keeping with the church's theology. And what I would say to you is Parkside Church is overarching. It is Reformed. It's Reformed theology. Now, I am not the foremost authority of Reformed theology, but what I can tell you from probably the last 16 years of my life, as I have been a believer and holding on to firmly Reformed theology, that as I've seen it, there are really two main denominations that fall under that, and that being Baptist and Presbyterian. I'm sure there may be others, but so John MacArthur, John Piper, R.C. Sproul, Alistair, and a long, long list. And in there you have Presbyterians and you have Baptists alike. I believe that Parkside Church aligns more closely with Baptist, whereas R.C. Sproul and his church, I think his church in Orlando is called St. Andrews. It's far more closely aligned with Presbyterian. John MacArthur out there in Los Angeles is definitely more Baptist. But what's always encouraging to me is as I've visited John MacArthur's church, never was able to visit St. Andrews, but I have watched lots and lots of interviews, and what happens is those men of differing theological views, when it comes to the gospel, there is no division there. They might differ on adult or infant baptism. They might differ on eschatology, what happens at the end of all things. But the important things they are in total agreement on, even if they're Presbyterian and Baptist. So I'm telling you all that to say this. I reached out to Alistair and I said, I would really love, Alistair, if you wouldn't mind giving me your perspective, giving me some guidance. Are there any books on Revelation that you might recommend to me? And it took a while, frankly, before I thought he maybe had forgotten it, or just, because Alistair is one who, when asked by members of the congregation, when are you going to preach on Revelation? His answer historically has been, I promise you that I will as soon as I fully understand it. So to an Adventist, they would immediately gasp, like, what do you mean? I don't. And I'll be honest with you. The moment I meet somebody that tells me like they know precisely what revelation means, I almost instantly just want to just scratch them right off, because uh, it's a tough book. But he did respond to me, and he actually recommended 3 books to me, and I had purchased 2 of them. The first, I didn't bring the second one with me. It's by an author by the name of Michael Wilcox, and I think it's just called Revelation. And but this is the one that I've recently started reading, that I'm really kind of into, and it is called More Than Conquerors by William Hendrickson, an interpretation of the Book of Revelation. And it's kind of heady, but not too much. And it really, in my mind, it presents some really unique views of this book. Now, Ray is asking, was Revelation written to a contemporary audience? So I am of the opinion that the book of Revelation was, first off, if I believe that all scripture is God breathed and useful for instruction and teaching and all that kind of stuff, then I have to conclude that it can't be a book that was only or exclusively for that audience at that point in time. I have to believe that there's still things that I can glean and benefit from that. And I'm sure, Ray, that you would agree with that. But in answer to your question, yes, I do believe that when he says he was writing this to the 7 churches, I do believe that this letter was directly at them. Adventists will tell you that the 7 churches represent 7 different phases or stages in church history. And I don't agree with that. And as I'm studying, most theologians don't believe that. So I do believe that it was written to a contemporary audience. I do believe that when you let's go ahead and take a look at it, just a real quick here. Chance, you'd never heard that one? What? That Adventists believe that it's the 7 churches is like 7 phases of church history. Is that what you hadn't heard? So, and you can just answer that in the chat, and yeah, the 7 ages, correct. Yeah, that's what they believe. At least 18 years ago, when I was an elder there, they believed that. So back to Revelation. One of the things that has always struck me about this is in the prologue, so Revelation chapter 1, the revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show to his servants, here we go, the things that must soon take place. So that word right there, soon take place, there's all kind of interpretations around that word. There are some eschatologies that look at that word soon and say that this means that basically like everything was accomplished. Now that's probably more of a preterist view. I don't know if you're familiar with that perspective, but I've looked at that throughout the years, and there's some interesting points that the preterists make. But the point being this: the moment somebody steps up and says, "I can tell you exactly what this means," I want to just kind of step away, because that person scares me a little bit. But I am enjoying this journey as I look at these differing perspectives on how to understand that book of Revelation. And where I'm finding myself with the book is that I think that it was to those 7 churches, but I do believe that it is for us who will, us today, and whether or not those end time events happen in our lifetimes or sometime in the future, I believe that the church can be edified by this book. And I will tell you that the way Hendrickson is breaking down the book of Revelation, it is really a very encouraging book. And if persecution and things like that are going to be as bad as the book would lead us to believe, then knowing that God has us in his hands, that he is protecting us in the face of extreme persecution, the likes that you might have think about when you read the book of Hebrews in chapter 11 about the Hall of Fame of faith and people theoretically being fed to lions and things like that. If we may end up facing persecution like that, a book like this of Revelation, meaning that God is saying, listen, I don't care how things look, I'm totally in control, is a real encouragement. And so I think that is a real benefit to that book. So this is one that I'm reading. Another one that I'm reading too, they're both by R.C. Sproul, who Sproul is just, for my money, is just a phenomenal teacher. He's a phenomenal teacher. I don't know how many of you have watched much of his videos or sermons, but I ate them like bread when I left Adventism. And so this is a book he wrote called What We Believe, and the subtitle is Understanding and Confessing the Apostles' Creed. So I really like this book to understand that who God is, who man really is. Things like that. So, but I have to be honest with you, I bought this one accidentally. What? I know. I bought this one accidentally. What do you mean you bought it accidentally? Well, I bought it accidentally because a guy I respect quite a bit said, you've got to buy this book by R.C. Sproul. It's called Truths We Confess. Truths We Confess. And this is called What We Believe. And so I went on Amazon one night and started R.C. Sproul, and I think this one popped up first, and that kind of sounds the same kind of gist. And so I bought this, and I went back the next week and said, hey, I bought that book. And he's like, no. It's called Things We Confess. Oh, and that's what I recently bought here. Things We Confess. This, on the other hand, this is a systematic exposition of the Westminster Confession of Faith. And it is a monster of a book, but I cannot tell you how much I love it. It is great. It really is. So like the opening few chapters are, for instance, on we hold like how we view the Holy Scriptures. That was a huge chapter. How we view God in the Holy Trinity. You know, when I was an Adventist, I genuinely, sincerely believed we as Adventists were in line with mainstream Christianity. It was only after departing that I understood how their perspective of God, that it's three separate that have one united role. And this is contrary to the Orthodox teaching of the Trinity. So that's a huge chapter. God and his eternal decrees. What is God and creation? And the one I've read least recently was God and his providence. So it has been a great one. I'm currently in the chapter of the fall of man. So that's it's just an amazing book, and so I can't recommend those enough to you. Chance said, until 2016, I had barely heard of Adventism. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I wonder why 2016. I don't know. But I'm very, very, very grateful for the internet and specifically for YouTube, a place like this where people can learn the truth. So anyhow, so I'm reading those books, and yeah, Mac joined in it. Mac joined in it. Mac joined in it. MacArthur? What is that? What do you mean Mac joined in it? I'm slow. And then I'm going to go ahead and answer this. Your old best friend joined in it. Okay. And that's why you heard of it. Okay, that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So, and that's actually a pretty good segue here into what we're gonna, this letter or this question that was sent in today. So, when I was raised, there was this saying, the scriptural support that was always spoken in my ears since I was a child, and that is, do not be unequally yoked. And as an Adventist, that meant you need to marry an Adventist. And I never really pushed back on that at all because I was a good boy and I was Johnny Adventist. But no, I'm not going to say but. I can also vividly remember when I was ordained as an elder, there was another young man who was also ordained on the same day and time with me. The same elders that came there from the conference to do the ordination, he and I were both ordained the same day. Now, this is now what I'm going to tell you. The story I'm going to tell you is now over 20 some years ago. So you'll forgive me if I don't have all the details straight, but you're going to follow the gist of it. There was a young girl that started attending the church because she was friends with some of the attendees. Some of the Adventist attendees had invited her, but she was not an Adventist. But she would come each Sabbath and participate in things like that. And as I've said before, this congregation was very, very young. I would say the median age, of the church was 25. Very, very young. But attendance was really high. The church, gave tithes and offerings on a very good basis. The people were really involved in various ministries. We depended a lot on small groups. That's how we would really grow the church. We also were very active, like in the area of Cleveland, that we met, going out and doing kindness evangelism, knocking on doors, just asking people if there's anything we could pray for them about, or if we could cut their grass, or whatever. So we were very, very active, but still very, very young. And so this young man began to date this girl. And at some point in time, it got serious. And he decided that he wanted to marry her. And so the whole idea of being unequally yoked came up again. And I may have, I can't remember. I don't claim perfection by any stretch of the imagination, but I may have even brought it up that this was probably not a wise idea. But the argument back from him and from her was this text has nothing to do with denomination. And he's right. I didn't like it at the time because I was Johnny Adventist, but he's absolutely right that the text at its core is saying you too, the people that are going to get married both should be strong in their faith. Now, I would agree that it shouldn't be a Christian and a Muslim or a Christian and a Jew or something like that. But denominationally, just like my example with R.C. Sproul, John MacArthur, Alistair, etc., all different denominations, but equally strong in their faith and their preaching and belief in the gospel. That is where people need to be equally yoked. But what I will tell you is, and so ultimately he ended up marrying her. And if I'm not mistaken, again, 20 some years, he resigned as an elder because we advised him not to do it. And he did it anyway. There were a couple occasions in the life, so I shouldn't say in the life of that church because I left before the church is technically still an organization. No one attends. You couldn't find it. You couldn't say, where does Walk of Faith meet this Sabbath? Because they're all over the place, but they still own the name and they still have some money in their funds or whatever. But anyhow, the point I'm going to make is in the time, my time that I was there were multiple major problems that we had in that church where we had to disfellowship some people. There was discipline, a major rift that occurred. And the young lady I was talking about that ended up marrying that former elder, she at some point in time, remember I said she was friends with these Adventist guys or people. Well, they were gonna buy a house and she was gonna rent one of the rooms. And there was all kind of problems about that. And the church getting together and trying to decide how are we going to address this and what does Mrs. White say? And boy, did we scour her writings and we came to conclusions based upon her writings and basically told the church and any kind of leader, we should not be going into that home to avoid the appearance of endorsing it, and so forth and so on. So I'm digressing a little bit. I'm going to go back now to this message that came in because it really kind of has to do with this question of being unequally yoked. So if any of you are interested in finding this comment, it was placed on, the best way I can describe it is I have 4 videos entitled Why I Left the Seventh-day Adventist Church, part 1 of 4, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, and part 4 of 4. This comment was on that video, Why I Left the Seventh-day Adventist Church, part 4 of 4. And this is what she writes. Thank you very much for your testimony. My second marriage is with an SDA. I am Christian, and I discovered, too, the false doctrines when accompanying him sometimes at church. I am going to guess, based upon the way of the writing, that English is not this young lady's first language. It seems a little bit broken. Sometimes the grammar is a little bit off. Not that I care. I'm just letting you know. So right off the bat, I'm like, oh. So what's funny is Adventists say unequally yoked is if you marry anybody outside of Adventism. And now when I'm on the outside, I would agree. Like no Christian should marry an Adventist. I had a former a pastor friend who he now pastors a church in Philadelphia. I may have told you guys this story before. He reached out to me and said, hey, Scott, listen, I have a question for you real quick. There is an Adventist pastor in this area who would like to know if he could rent our church for Saturday services. What do you think I should do? And I said, do not do it. Do not do it. I would not recommend someone marry an Adventist, um, try to do ministry with an Adventist. Uh, please hear what I'm about to say. Not because I think they're mean or that they're aware, because that's really, I'm afraid some of the danger is that they're not even aware of how out of line they are. I remember when I was leaving Adventism, there was this website called CARM, CARM, like Christian Apologetic Resource Ministry or something like that. And I remember there was a section in there where you could find posts and resources about Seventh-day Adventists. And the heading that you found that in was called heterodoxy, which means outside of orthodoxy. Adventists believe, like I did, that they are totally orthodox, that their beliefs are totally in line with Scripture. They don't even know how far they are, which is why I would recommend not marrying an Adventist and why I would recommend not doing any type of ministry with an Adventist. Because when you say Trinity and they say Trinity, you aren't saying the same thing. When you say gospel and they say gospel, you aren't saying the same thing. And this matters. This truly matters. And this is where a book like this about the Westminster Confession is so very important to help you understand true gospel theology. So this poor lady is already opening up that she has already married this guy and has already seen some of the false truths. She says they put on people to observe the law. So what she's saying is they're putting it on people. They're trying to force them. Correct. Did it myself multiple times. Multiple times. They put it on others to observe the law. Generational SDA, my husband, knows only that I tried to show I'm truth. I think she meant to say, I tried to show him the truth, but he doesn't want to see. Yeah. Because if you're of the opinion that you have all the answers, what do you need to see truth for? I don't claim that I know all the truth. I think I know some truth, and I think the truth that I know is impactful enough that when somebody presents a lie, I'm able to tell that's a lie or that's out of keeping. You see, I don't have to know everything in the Bible, but if you know the core fundamental things, when somebody brings you something that's out of line, it stands out like a sore thumb. And you can say, no. For instance, when I first left Adventism and I go into this non-denominational church and this dude starts preaching on James and he starts telling my two friends, if you don't get baptized, listen, if you don't get baptized this day, Sunday, and if you die on Tuesday, you're lost. I could tell right away that's wrong. That's wrong. So anyhow, so the reason why he doesn't want to see it is because he already believes he has the truth. He doesn't need it from you. I don't want to do anything with their cults, but unfortunately, when it's too far or near seaside, my husband wants me to come with him, but I can't tolerate to hear their messages. I was thinking about telling my husband I don't want to be hypocrite and listen to them because I know the truth. Well, that's, yeah, A couple weekends ago was the alumni weekend for Mount Vernon Academy. And I had friends that came into this from all over the United States. And the idea of going to the Hill Church there in Mount Vernon and having to sit through a sermon, there's no way. There's just no way. I could not do it. So I understand exactly what you're saying, Anne Fran. I don't want to be hypocrite and listen to them because I know the truth. His family members and him are nice people, but they want to stay SDA. They judge those like me going to church on Sunday as wrong. What do you think I shall do? In fact, he likes me being with him, knowing I will not participate in their things. So, what do I think you should do? Well, the Bible does give counsel to when women are married and to unbelieving men, and I think that is the advice, that would be the counsel that you would follow, and that is you do not divorce them. You stay with them and you continue to pray for them. I would not go to church with him. I would protest. I would continue to go to church on Sunday, because in this regard, you have to align with God. You have to obey him. And what they are preaching, according to the book of Galatians, is another gospel, and it is anathema. So I would highly recommend that you not attend. The other thing I would do is, and I'm sure, Anne, friend, that you're already doing it, but praying, pleading with God to open his eyes. I have right here, where is it? I'm not going to show this to you, but this is my prayer list. And I have it broken kind of into 4 sections. And section one of this is spiritual awakening. And on this list, there are people that I plead with God for, that he would show mercy to them and open their eyes. And I'm telling you, it breaks my heart, but the first 2 are my sons. I plead with God every day, Lord, have mercy on them and open their eyes to you. He did that for me. He maybe did that for you. And if he hasn't done that for you, I will hope that he does that for you as well. But on here are that I have unbelieving parents. I have siblings. I have friends who I can only describe them as hostile to God. And I think that we have to be doing that, pleading with God to have mercy on our friends and our families that are unbelievers. Either they're just lazy or they're totally hostile. And just as he did with Saul, who later became Paul, just as he did with each and every one of us, he's able to do that in his time, in his way. So my advice to you, Anne Fran, would be to be praying and pleading that God would open his eyes. I would encourage you to not engage and debate him, because it is not something that he is actually open to. If he is your run-of-the-mill Adventist, your run-of-the-mill Adventist is thrilled to argue, because they think they have some secret thing that the rest of us we just missed that. I can't believe that the fourth commandment, I've just missed it all these years. Because they have missed it. They truly are old wineskins, and they cannot hold new wine. They cannot hold the new wine of the new covenant. Cannot do it. So debating him or his family is an act in futility. And if he's like any Adventist, they feed off of that. So it's a no-win situation. So just avoid it. So I'm not going to argue about it. And the thing that I would recommend is, when they truly begin to question, that's a different story entirely. And it'll be up to you to be able to determine, when is there a question, when is he or her asking a question from a genuine, sincere place, and not baiting you, not just itching to start an argument. When are they being genuine when they say, so help me understand X? when you can sense that, yeah, go ahead and have that conversation. Absolutely have that conversation, but I wouldn't do it any other time. I wouldn't do it any other time. So I hope that helps, Anne. I appreciate you watching and taking time to comment, and I hope that helps. Please let me know how things go. So Chance, looks like you're still here. Maybe Ray. I saw it was up to 4 people, and then they got bored with me and they took off. You guys have any questions or comments about anything? Otherwise, it's been 40 minutes, and I'll let you guys have the rest of your evening back. Any questions, comments, or concerns? I am interested in. I've been in contact with examining Adventism. Miles runs Answering Adventism, but I hope I'm not stepping out of line here. But I met Logan. Logan runs Examining Adventism, and he and I have had a couple emails back and forth. And I hope to talk to him on the phone. I don't know if it'll maybe be this weekend or some point in time, but he and I have some things in common. Yeah, I don't think he's ever announced it. I probably shouldn't have said that. So my apologies. But but hopefully, maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to him. Maybe do an interview. I don't know. We'll see. Anyhow. Oh, Scott. Anyway, hope you guys are all doing well. God bless you. Continue your searching and your studying and praying. I appreciate it. And hope you guys have a great rest of your week. And God bless you guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks for your support. I really appreciate it.